Yes, her. Exactly.
When there's lots of, food on the so someone's supposed to have a big 14 here.
That's what they're doing. All right, yeah. Yep. Okay, so this is. Well, this. So that's. This would be this one. Oh, but the, yes, about the. Go ahead and present and then I'll share the screen, so that way it's kind of.
Okay.
So once you present, I'll hand it off to you.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I can say shrine now.
Oh, So is this our first meeting live on YouTube then or something?
You guys get.
Testing it out on what's.
We've done it for council.
That is.
Council's done it. Just council so far. This is the first board commission I have. Mostly because I'm the one who's the commission. Yeah.
Just a break comment here, and did he say?
I've not heard anything from them.
Okay. Well, it's 7 o'clock, so we can get started. Call order the, regular, planning commission meeting on June 25th, 2025. Was Ann, or are you calling roll today?
You know, I think it's gonna be. That is fun.
Am I really calling roll today? I'm calling roll. Alright. Mr. Brindle,
President?
Mr. Brady, Ms. Gaskin,
Present.
Mr. Carroll,
Present.
Ms. Lafra,
Here.
Mr. Loud,
Present.
Ms. P.
Here.
We have 6 constituted quorum.
First agenda item is consideration of minutes from the May 28th meeting. Is there any changes or corrections or updates? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. Was passed. Next on the agenda is citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens here? All citizens. Hearing that, so. The next is for the planning commission members' comments. Thanks to the council and the town for having air conditioning in here. A couple places the last couple of days where fishing was not working, so. Okay. So does this actually come out under continuances or is this?
It's old business.
Okay. So, under old business. All right then, under old business, I guess I will call the, PUD 2025-02, Lansing Woods, the rezone land from R2 to PUD for 173 lot residential neighborhood, the property is approximately 56.78 acres being annexed into South Colorado, located near the northwest corner of County Road 700, and we have the 2 feet north, including parcels and all the old. And this is been continued from May 28th. So the process, which probably everybody knows, the pro group, is that I call the case. And their staff, that they have received the proper documentation, that all the people that have been notified of the notices. I think that actually last meeting. Continuous, and you did have all of that at that time, so good for that. Then we give the petitioner about 15 minutes to present their case. And then staff, and I think, staff on call, Oksana will, be, giving that presentation. And then, we might ask some questions from that, and then we'll open the public hearing. Short. And then, after that, we'll close public hearing, and then, that, so. Further discussion, so with that. The petitioner, come on up and state your name. And get started.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Have it presented and then he presents to you later. The arrow key should work if it decides to come off. There it is.
Here.
Just to give you context, the presentation here is also in paper format, so I'm more old school, so I want to give you all that if you want to take any notes, so. Good evening, Plan Commission members. My name is Sean Downey. I'm Vice President of Land Development with Arbor Homes. For the record, our address is 9225 Harrison Park Court, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46216. Appreciate the opportunity to present our petition for you this evening. For those of you that may not be super familiar with Arbor Homes, Arbor Homes was a single-family company started in 1995 here in Indianapolis. This year marks our 31st year building homes in central Indiana, so we are a homegrown Indiana company. The project presented before you this evening for rezoning is approximately 56 acres, located on the northeast side of town. It butts up to I-70 to the north, County Road 700 to the west. When you look at the town's comprehensive plan, this parcel falls in a mixed use area. We feel the proposed development is less intensive and is compatible with the other developments, the Cumberland North, as well as some of the existing communities around there. The site itself, so our proposal is proposing a PUD zoning. The site consists of 182 homes. 182 homes. Of that, we break down into two different product types. In the yellow, we're proposing the 60-foot wide lots, which would be our Arbor home line that we have been building for 31 years. The other blue lots that are tucked up more on the interstate, we're proposing a 40-foot wide lot. This is a new product line for us. We've been building the last year or two. It's our Arrival series. From an access point standpoint with the development, we will be connecting to Buck Creek Road there to the west, as well as connectivity south into the Cumberland North development, along with that new County Road 200 extension coming out of the roundabout. When you look at the overall project, we have almost a third of the project is open space, so 20 acres of open space. Will include walking trails and sidewalks. We are proposing landscape buffering, a pretty heavy buffer along the interstate corridor. And with that, with conversations with staff, we are proposing to contribute the park impact fees upfront rather than paying those per building permit. So that will kind of lead into this next slide as it pertains to the proposed park just south of us, kind of tucked in with the Cumberland North project. We will be connecting our path into this proposed concept plan here. And then, as I stated, we'd like to make those park impact fees, provide those to the town, so those fees could be used to help, pay for and fund some of the things that are proposed in this park plan here. Spoke to the two different product types, so the next few slides give context to the homes we are proposing to build. This slide is the Arbor Homes line, so those would be the yellow lots as you've seen on the layout. This product consists of 12 floor plans. Each one of those floor plans have 5 different elevations. This product line, we have a handful of ranch options, and then multiple 2-story options. The size of the homes range from 1,200 to 3,200 square feet. And then this product line offers some additional options for the buyers, whether that's sunrooms on the back of the home, covered porches, third car garages. And as I stated earlier, this is the product we have been building for over 30 years.
Is this the product that you're putting in down German Church, just south of the school?
German Church south of the school, yes. Yes, Arbor Home.
All those Yes, there, this,
Yes.
okay.
The next slide just gives a bigger, broader picture of the varying elevations, styles, different materials that we would find with this Arbor Home series. The next slide, so this is our arrival product. This is the line, the blue lots proposed up along I-70. This product, we have 5 floor plans. We have multiple elevation options with those as well. This is a 2 and a 3-story product. And then the square footage of these homes range from a little over 1,100 up to 1,900 square feet. And similarly, this next slide gives more context to different styles, different material, different elevation looks of what this product would be. One of the features for us as a home building company here locally is that at our office in Lawrence, we do have a state-of-the-art design center. So the buyers will be able to schedule appointments and come in, make selections, whether that's countertops, flooring, cabinets, as well as the exterior materials. So we do give a lot of that ability to the buyer to look at how they want to spend their money, especially, you know, on those interior type of selections. So with that, I'll kind of conclude with just wrapping this up. Staff has issued a positive recommendation with their staff report last week. We greatly appreciate the opportunities we've had to meet with Christine and Ben and Oksana and all the TAC members to kind of work through this plan and where we are presenting for you this evening. I wanted to highlight some of our commitments that are in our PUD. One of the things with the addition of, 183 lots, we recognize there will be some, increased traffic. And we already know with the other projects, there's talks on improvements on some of the intersections on 700. So in talking with staff, we're committed to the $150,000 contribution that would go toward those road improvements. Architecturally, these are just some high level commitments we're making. 3 colors on the front of homes or materials, as well as 2 different colors and materials on the sides and rears, committing to 12-inch overhangs on the homes. When it comes to garages, we're committing to garages having windows and hardware to kind of soften those garage door looks. And then this exhibit highlights kind of in the red dots on the homes that will back up to 700 and then the future 200, County Road 200. Those we've committed to doing rear enhancements. So those homes will all have some sort of, whether it's a covered porch, a sunroom, some sort of extension that gives some variety to how those will look from the major roads. And then lastly, I noted earlier, we're committed to a larger landscape buffering along I-70, a 3 to 6 foot mound with different trees and shrubs committed on that. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and open it up to any questions or comments.
I would say one quick one, and we'll have more later, we can definitely look. But anyway, what's the major then difference other than moving the houses around the one we're proposing for? Is there any other substantial differences?
I think originally we kind of had the products flip-flop right where we were proposing them. The more we kind of looked at it in conversations with staff, we decided to move the Arbor, the kind of higher end product for these 2 products down into the development and then top of the arrival homes up on the interstate. So
Really, it's pretty much the same.
Yes,
You were
yeah.
gonna-
the lot, the road connectivity, all of that stayed the same. So
I have a question. You went from 173 to 183 and how?
In our actual PUD, it should be
Well,
182, yeah.
yeah, it's the one I referred to as the first one had 173 on 3.14.
Yes,
It's not 3.2.
yeah, in making the switch and moving the products in different areas, there was a slight increase there, so.
Are the 10 homes in the loop?
I believe so, I don't know what the original count, what the breakup of that was, so. We tried to look at the 40-foot homes and the 60 and try and find some clean breaks. Where we could transition from the one product to the others, so.
Thank you.
Could you tell us, how that trail will connect the south side?
All right,
Yeah.
proceed to.
Yeah, we'll let Clements on do her thing. I just had that quick one just to see if we'll go.
Yeah.
I would just follow the stick there.
Okay, what's on, you're on.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roxana. I'm the on-hold planner. I'll try to project my voice so that everyone hears it, but you know, if you guys don't understand something, let me know. I'll go over it again. So Sean already went over the location of the project, the general description of the project. I would like to first just remind what the general procedure is and the criteria of the kind of application that they're reviewing, because the rest of the analysis is the criteria of the PUD applications. So the PUD application is an amendment to the zoning, right? So we're reviewing every zoning type of application, and as such, the planning commission reviews it and sends either a recommendation to the council or sends no recommendation to the council. And then the town council would need to review it and vote on it. And so what we're doing here today is we have a public hearing to, for the planning commission to come up to the recommendation for the council. Because it's a rezone, there are 5 criteria, that the planning commission and town council needs to pay attention to. The first one is the comprehensive plan as adopted and amended from time to time by the town council. The current structures and uses within each zoning district. The most desirable use for which the land in each zoning district is adapted. The conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction and responsible development and growth. There are additional criteria for planned unit developments. They have special zoning districts. They're pretty much like creating a zoning district from scratch. And so on top of the rezoning criteria, the planning commission and the town council needs to also when they review the zoning district, when they review the proposed variations from the zoning ordinance, and from the subdivision of the ordinance, such variations should achieve the purposes for which planning developments may be approved pursuant to the requirements of the PUD article. The variations should not violate the general purposes, goals, and objectives of the zoning ordinance and the town's plan, and they will result in a development providing compensating amenities to the town. And then the ordinance also gives certain criteria for the PUD, for the PUDs, and so the second goes over whether this proposal meets those criteria according to the steps analysis. The location of the subject property is currently located outside of the town limits. The property owners applied for annexation of the said property into the town of Cumberland, and they're still going through the process. The project site is located on the north side of Cumberland, south of I-70, west of Autumnwood subdivision, where I believe there is some harbor homes product already. It's east of Hancock Gateway Park and north of the proposed Cumberland North Mixed residential use development. The applicant proposes to annex subject property into the town and rezoning from the county's R 2.5 zoning district to a PUD district called Lansing. So, then we have the analysis of the concept plan and the PUD ordinance. The planning, development districts are unique with purpose and provide greater flexibility in design. When considering PUD, the plan commission town council should consider whether the application meets the purpose for the PUDs as well as the development standards. So the first criteria is encourage innovation and creativity in the design layout of development. The developer proposes two product types. The arrival series can be a good start home option, and the Aura series can be a good option for a larger family. These home types allow an attainable starting option of an old detached house before moving to a larger house. Also, the proposed trail network incorporates landscape retention pond areas into the overall walkable neighborhood design, which makes more community amenities accessible to all residents. Second criteria, provide for more efficient use of land, including the reduction of land areas for utility lines and more vehicle access. The proposed design integrates its street and trail network well into the existing and proposed developments, creating a safe and efficient network. The proposal also works together with the proposed road network in Cumberland North. Criteria number 3, permits special consideration of property with outstanding natural or topographical features, historical significance, landscape amenities, and size and shape. The project site doesn't have interesting natural or topographic features. Its design, however, shows that the existing wooded areas will be preserved and integrated into the overall landscape buffer or common areas. Encourage imaginative use of common areas and open space. The proposed common areas serve the following roles. Wide landscape buffers around the neighborhood provide a buffer between the lots and a highway and a collector street. The applicant commits to a highest standard for a perimeter landscape buffer, a mound with influence landscaping that will provide noise reduction and a year-round visual buffer. Most lots have a buffer in their rear yard or a landscape pond, so almost all lots in this development will enjoy a view of a landscape area. There is a connected network of sidewalks and trails that will allow residents to enjoy the view of the natural areas, with their retention ponds becoming an asset for all residents. The trails and sidewalks connect to the outside walkable network, connecting these future residents to the town's trails. And finally, the applicant proposes to work with the town on contributing to a park development in Cumberland North, which is immediately south of Lansing Woods. Criteria number 5, provide for a comprehensive review and approval process aimed at furthering the Cumberland plan. The Cumberland Comprehensive Plan calls for mixed use in this area, which assumes a much higher density and traffic than the proposed single-family detached neighborhood. The applicant proposes a neighborhood at a much lower density of 3.2 dwelling units per acre. That's how I was told that at the time of the comprehensive plan adoption, the development pattern around this property indicated that a mixed-use development could be fit here. So I'm guessing when the Hancock Hospital was developing, that mixed use looked like a better fit. There, however, the development that has transpired in the area throughout the years has led to this area being mostly residential. Due to this, it appears that the residential use at this location is appropriate. The proposed development meets the following goals stated in the comprehensive plan: the creation of walkable, connected neighborhoods, provisions for attainable and diverse housing for various stages. The next section goes over the development standards. that are proposed in the beauty ordinance. The overall density of the proposed development is close to the general expected density of the base R4 zoning district, and that's, by the way, is the base zoning district proposed in the beauty ordinance. The proposed bulk standards differ from the R4 district, mainly to fit the house on a smaller lot. Many of the proposed standards are comparable to the single-family house product that was approved in Parkview Village and Cumberland North developments. The proposed landscape standards and buffers on the concept plan either meet or exceed the building standards. The proposed landscape standards greatly improve the overall look of the development on the street. The applicant is committed to providing the required amount of open space. They also propose to contribute to the development of the park south of Lansing Woods in the Cumberland North development by providing the park fee for dwelling unit up front towards adding improvements in the park to Cumberland. Architecture, and this is just the summary. The proposed plans in the Arbor series meet the intent of Cumberland's architectural standards and meet most of those standards. The applicant proposes using the town's anti-monogamy standards for the Arbor series. Lots with this product that apply county roads 700 and 200 will have rear features like rear porches, townhouse, or enhanced materials, and the PUD ordinance states that's a commitment as a standard. The Arrival series lacks breaks in mass and articulation and looks boxy, which is a little bit the town's architectural standards try to avoid. And so the applicant proposes several ways to counteract that by one, varying front setbacks by 2 feet between the lots to break up the monotonous streetscape. Two, anti-monogamy standards specific to this product that vary the product design and color, which means the intent of anti-monogamy standards. And three, placing this product further from the general public view. Next, there's a table that compares the proposed development standards between the zoning district R4, Lansing Woods Area A, Lansing Woods Area B, Parkview Village, Cumberland North areas A and B. And I don't know how in much detail, no, right. So we'll just say that we provided that comparison for minimum lot size, width, lot coverage, front setback size, rear. There are cross parking standards. The zoning ordinance requires 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. Every house plan contains a 2-car garage, so that's needed. Architecture. The applicant lists some minimal architectural requirements and provides a general illustrative character of the proposed products. The staff reviewed the proposed standards and the submitted floor plans to see how they compare to the town's residential architectural standards in section 0015, 103, 13. So the applicant proposes 2 kinds of products: Arbor series, large lots in area B. There are 13 plans, with each plan having 3 to 6 elevations. Each elevation has a few options of material pattern elevations. So overall, there will be a lot of different options available to this instrument. 5 plans are 1-story, and 8 plans are 2-story plans. There are also options to add bonus rooms or basements. Pretty much on most of those plans. House widths vary between 32 and 42 feet, and the depth of houses vary between 40 and 57 feet. Such variation of designs, together with the anti-monogamy requirements, can produce the desired variable streetscape. All plans provide for an option for a rear covered patio or sun. And this is important because most houses in area B water collector street. And so as you saw, a lot of them will be required to provide an option. It's good to see that all plans have. All plans in the Arbor series have several elevations that meet the residential art standards for the house standards. And so the only elevations that staff found that sometimes don't meet some of the standards are Ashland Way, Redford Bay, Newport Bay, Empress Bay. Arrival series for small lots in the area, A. There are 5 plans, and each plan has 5 elevations. Each elevation has a few options of material patterns and combinations. The houses are 2 to 3 stories, and there are options to add basement. Every plan's first floor is 30 feet wide, and is comprised of a 20-foot wide garage section and 9-foot deep recessed, 10-foot wide entrance section that may or may not have a porch. The porch's depth is the same one. All the houses are the same depth on the first floor. So the variation between the plans is going to be mostly in the design of the second and third floors. And that variation comes from the variation in elevations themselves, as well as they provide options for different material combinations on those. Only the plan Rockaway has a protruding element on the second floor. All other plans, sort of into the elements with a 12-inch roof overhang and the trim material on the second or third floors to create a visually separate element. However, that still means that there is lack of articulation of the elevations through recessions and protrusions. With narrower lots, the same with the whole planes, the same design for the floor along all planes, it becomes very important to create variation in color and material pattern between the nearby houses to avoid the flat, boxy, and monotonous streetscape look. In addition to the anti-monopoly standards that help achieve such variation, the applicant proposes to vary the front setbacks. So if they're proposing them to 23, 25, and 27 feet, and just stagger them between lots. Then the staff goes over some the standards that meet the town standards, we exclude them, and then a couple of standards that do not meet the town standards. So this is based on what is proposed in the beauty ordinance. The ones that meet the town standards are the minimum 12-inch overhang around the entire house, featuring at least 3 materials on the front elevation and 2 materials along the other elevations. Homestead on the arterial of the streets. The town requires a 1-inch by 6-inch trim board, shuttered regular block, vertically stone, or vertically on surround all windows. And are convinced to require the 1 by 6-inch trim and window grills on these elevations that are facing the collector or arterial streets. Also, the town requires a rear feature on the homestead onto arterial collector street, and Arbor commits to that as well. And they have that exhibit pointing each lot inside of the sort of lot for version of their community. The following standards exceed the town standards. Window grills and the 1 by 6 trim that is required on the front facade of each home. So it's not just a trim, it's a standard for all houses. All homes shall include a decorated garage with garage windows and decorated hardware. So that the town, I think, doesn't have this specific standard, so they're adding it. And then homestead in front of the arterial collector street. The town's ordinance requires a minimum 15-foot deep landscape buffer, but they're proposing either 20 or 30-foot buffer depending on the location of the buffer. The standards that don't meet the common standards are the minimum proposed roof pitch at 512 instead of 612, so the minimum is 612 on the town standards. And then the town requires that the minimum percentage of masonry material on the front elevation is 60%. So the applicant doesn't commit to this percentage. All submitted plans have options to add masonry to any plan in various proportions. And staff thinks that if the intent is to have good quality neighborhood and sort of vary the houses one from another, it's more important to vary the color and the mix of products on the front elevations than require kind of the same percentage on each elevation. Anti-monogamy standards comparison, basically Arbor Series is going to follow the standards that the town has. And then, the Arrival Series has only 5 plans, and in order for them to follow the town standard, they would have to have at least 6 plans, because basically the rule is that you have to have, a different plan on the neighboring lots, like one to each side, one across and one across from the street. And so because of that, Arbor proposes a slightly different anti-monogamy standard for the Arrival Series. Signage, no alternative sign standards or proposal. Landscaping, Arbor proposes basically to meet the street or parkway trees, standard. They propose much better landscape buffer standards than this proposed zoning ordinance requires. While landscaping, they propose to provide at least 1 shade tree per lot, 1 additional tree on the corner lots, and at least 4 shrubs installed in front of the house. Open space, the developer commits to the town's requirement of a minimum of 25% of open space, excluding pond areas, pond areas. Public services, sanitary sewer, the town of Cumberland, when included with Aqua, intends to serve this area. With regard to water, Citizens of Water provided a little serve letter. Traffic study, the study that was submitted for Cumberland North Development was updated for this development, resubmitted. And so some of the improvements that I needed were mentioned already before Cumberland North, and I wanted to just revised. And those include development of obviously street to the south, which is 200 north, as well as the contribution to an intersection of county roads and 100 west of county road and north, because some of the intersections will be added. Road length and speed, since we're talking about traffic, the one of the comments that was brought up is that one of the streets is just very long. It runs pretty much across the entire neighborhood, and sometimes when you have one long street, people tend to speed through it. And so one way that Arbor proposes to calm the traffic down is by having some sort of road design features that will calm the traffic down. And the examples that they have in the PUD are raised sidewalks, street roundhouse, specifically where trails connect to the streets. And so staff report has an image of an example from another development. It's not something from Arbor, it's just something I'm aware of, and I'm giving an example of what it can look like when it's above out. And sometimes people don't have, like, if it's above out, especially if you add a tree to it, you're gonna take this vertical out and these cars and just give them to slow down with it. But the actual feature will be chosen for this at the prime group flat. So right now we're not, solidifying what it's going to be. It's going to be solidified at the next application stage. The right of way, the town will require adequate right of way to be dedicated for the development during the preliminary plat review stage. Sidewalks and trails, the proposed sidewalk and trail size meets the town's standards. Fire department comments. The Buck Creek Fire Department has raised concerns about the building setbacks and materials. The fire department requested the applicant to commit to using more fire resistant exterior materials like 5% siding, and prohibiting the use of vinyl siding, which is a similar commitment that was recently approved in Cumberland North and Massachusetts UTs. Staff still notes that also the Indiana Residential Building Code has minimum construction standards for fire resistance. And it has to assume that the distance between the buildings could be different up to, you know, a zero setback. So if you have a townhouse or apartments, then you do provide much better fireproofing within the structure. And so basically there are other ways to define resistance. However, again, the fire department had a concern about in the design of the street, the fire department requested that at least a 20-foot wide no parking on the street is preserved to accommodate an aerial fire truck. So this could be done during the primary plat review. The fire department requested to see the location of the fire hydrants prior to their approval, and I believe that that would be again something to review at the primary plat stage. General terms and conditions. So, staff hasn't received any other comments from other departments. And so the only thing that staff just noted is that the project will provide Hancock County's drainage board review, which needs to be obtained during the primary plat stage. So now that we went through all these criteria, the staff recommends approval of this PUD based on following facts. The proposal pays reasonable regard to the comprehensive plan by meeting its goal of creating attainable housing options in buildable nature. The proposed use is less intense than the recommended mixed use for the area, so the proposed development will have a lower impact on public resources and services than originally intended. The proposed residential neighborhood fits well with the existing and proposed residential and commercial uses around. The proposed use is a desirable use of this area. The proposed use is less intense than the recommended mixed use area. Mixed use for the area, so that proposed development will have a lower impact on resources and services than originally intended. And this helps meet the criteria of responsible development and growth, as well as conservation of property value in the jurisdiction as a whole. The proposed development is unique in its offering and design. And the community standards and concept plan mostly meet the general rules, intent, and objectives of the zoning and subdivision ordinance. And as staff recommends approval, it attaches the conditions about the range for approval at the time of the plat stage. That the trees should be added along the extension of County Road to 100 North, where the applicant owns real estate to be used in the County Road to construction. Haven't mentioned that, but basically on the south side, they show the landscape buffer, but they don't show the street itself and the street trees. And I'm not sure how much of their development will kind of be part of the 200 North Street, but if it is, staff wants to ensure that the applicant just remembers that, you know, if one needs to go a portion of the roadside of the trees should go there as well. It just is not. And then finally, traffic improvements. The conditions will be dedication of adequate 5-foot for the new County Road 200. And 700 West intersection during the planning process. Sidewalk and or trails will be required along County Road 200 North. And then contribution to the construction of County Road 200 North. Contribution to the single lane route out of County Road 150 North, County Road 700 West, sorry, and contribution to the traffic signal roundabout at an intersection of County Road 700 West and County Road 100 North. All of these intersections were mentioned in the traffic study, saying that this new development will impact the traffic, and thus this is where kind of this comes from. And the applicant today proposed a commitment to provide funding that would, or sort of be a pool of money as for these. That's what I have for you for today.
Thank you very much. This whole question is all because I have to officially open the public hearing. If any public wants to make comments, I don't see anyone, so I will open the public hearing and without comments, close the public hearing. So I think that satisfies that correctly. I'm going to start out, which I always do, right? And this is for our planner on call. And, you know, I was bringing up stuff for the traffic study. I did a little math today. It said that if I read the traffic study correctly, that it would add 5% traffic increase to Buckley Road. Now, that means if it was backwards, that means that if half the homes in that subdivision would be using Buckley Road, I'm not sure that right or wrong, but let's say even if it's 25%. That means there'd be 1,800 other homes or cars using that road. Well, there's not 1,800 other homes there. So I'm not sure how that 5% drops. I would think that just from a personal opinion, having lived here for 37 years, that if I'm living in that subdivision and I'm going to be going to the Meyer store over here or the CVS or whatever, to Ciro's, I'm going to go over to Buck Creek Road and come down Buck Creek Road. So I'm kind of a little concerned that the traffic study may be not considering the full amount of traffic that's going to be on Buck Creek Road when this all gets done between all the subdivisions. And what this adds to, could you help me understand that 5% number?
I could probably help with that. So, when they figure those percentages, it's because not all people are traveling at the exact same time. So it's not as though it's just adding a total of 5% to the entire traffic, 5% at any one time, if that makes sense.
Even though, still during the entire day or week, I mean, I would think it's gonna be higher than that. I don't know, again, I'm no traffic engineer, so.
It's just what I've seen on other traffic.
Yeah,
studies. That's
yeah.
how they figure
Charlie, I don't know if you have anything.
Fortunately, I was not the one to review the traffic study, so off the top of my head, I'm not familiar with the numbers here. I do know that they did account for both the new subdivisions, the study. So.
Well, that's why I'm thinking that those were already counted in. And so this would be an additional, the 5% would be in addition to that. But when I look at the number of homes there, I just think that number's got to be more. There may be some of that.
5% of the traffic on the road, not necessarily 5%.
Right.
And then the Cumberland North traffic study included that project plus, I think it was like a 5% background traffic or something like that. And then this, you have the update that they did with these numbers on top of it. And so it does assume that, just like Bob said, not every vehicle is gonna be traveling at the same time. Not all the vehicles are gonna use that one, and, you know, entrance or road access point. And that, so depending on where you are in the subdivision. And then, traffic studies, a lot of the data that goes into the percentages they use in that comes from the manuals that are set out that standardize how you analyze the traffic. And that, and so I think some of the background traffic, your traffic counts that you get are based on the type of, use that you have there, the number of, homes, things like that. So.
But I know you're talking about having some training on the
Yes.
traffic study for sometime later.
Yes.
You know, but I guess my concern is that the other traffic that's already included in there also has those same factors. So, yeah, it's not all there at the same time. So that's why it's a little, you know, I have trouble wrapping my head around. So I guess we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, so I mean, the traffic study takes your existing traffic plus then what's being proposed. And that, so it, you know, I think that, it's very complex, formulas and analysis that goes into the traffic studies, which is why we can't answer those questions specifically for you. But there are traffic engineers, and this is what they do, and then it is very scientific, and there are manuals, and these are the accepted practices that are used across the country, and the formulas and stuff. And so this traffic study did go through a review of both Crossroads and Butler, Fairmont, and Seifert. So had two different engineering firms review it on our end. And we're actually using the data that's in those studies as we're working on designing the offsite improvements like the roundabout and kind of road 15, 700. So this traffic study probably has a little bit more eyes on it than maybe some of the others necessarily do. So
And
if that helps.
one of the things about the anti-monopoly, their chart is now, does it match what our town ordinance has? As far as the numbers and stuff, you know, how this is the sample, and then you go out from there, the ones and the twos and the threes and the fours. I realize they're doing it a little differently than normally do, and that they're using setbacks for part of that. And all that, and paint colors and all that, but does the general scheme, I guess, match what the ordinance, the town ordinance has?
It's close. It's not exactly, so the arrival series is the one that deviates from it, and that's where the Stafford setbacks come into play. And so that was something that, you know, we kind of collaborated to come up with, is the idea behind the anti-monopoly code is to make sure you're not gonna have all the same things, and they don't have necessarily the same variety of floor plans to be able to hit exactly what we do. Those staggered setbacks, so not all of them will be sitting at the same built-to line. You're gonna have some of that will add additional visual breakup in those, and so we feel like that's a good compromise that lends itself toward what we're trying to accomplish.
And that would also mean that you wouldn't have like 3 or 4, 3 stories right in a row, correct? And there's no single family or single story homes in the Atlantis, correct? Correct. So you don't have a 3-story next to a single story. Because I think that's the worst. Okay, that's my ones for the plan.
Those staggered setbacks aren't in this picture, correct?
No, they're
Picture
not.
looks all identical.
Yeah, it's not in the graphic
Okay.
representation, but it is in the text.
My first one always for the petitioner is, why is this good for the residents of Conning?
Well, first of all, thank you, Simon, for going through that.
Some more.
For
Oh, no, not.
no, yeah,
Okay,
this is just, I got a bunch of them.
okay.
Speaking to your question, Mr. Brindle, we're very passionate about homeownership. We feel that's something that, you know, what that does to a person's, their cycle of life as far as homeownership and the ability to own a home as opposed to renting, you know, start a family, build equity. You know, we have a mission statement, providing homeownership to as many folks, especially those who didn't think owning a home, that opportunity would present itself. So when we look at Cumberland, we look at this specific area, the ability to provide 2 product types for different people's different aspects, where they're at in their life, whether it's a young married couple, a single parent, you know, a larger family, having that harbor and arrival as a piece within our proposed project. You know, that's something we take a lot of pride in, giving people those opportunities to own a home. You know, especially those who didn't think they could ever purchase a home.
Okay, I do my due diligence, so that's why I said I went down to your thing here now, where you're building on the German church. I also spent quite a bit of time on your website, because the Martinsville I think that's all Orion Civic, am I correct there?
It's actually an arbor and the right.
That's about, all I could see was the Orion homes in pictures.
Yes, we have built all 5 of our elevations, the arrival as models there, and then we have one arbor model as well, but that's a community that's split 50-50 with arrival and arbor as well, so.
Okay. On the, this has to do with the, what's that, the gutter in the houses. I assume that what's on the website are actual pictures, because it looked like they were actual pictures of the home.
They are, yes.
Several of the homes didn't have any gutters on. And they looked like they're finished, and they're ready to sell. I was wondering about that.
Martinsville has a stipulation that doesn't require gutters, so in that specific community, we've allowed that as an option for the buyer, whether they want them or not, so.
Okay. Also on. And this, you may have taken it out of this, but, presentation Oksana had, you had a model called Coach. Is that currently in your, what you're proposing? Because if it is, I don't like the way the entry door is. It almost looks like it should be a door going into the garage, because there's no overhang, it's a 12-inch overhang.
The Coach, is that the page with the single picture you're looking at?
Well, it's in her presentation that she did for us.
I don't see it, guys.
It's the one with the single door on the side. You got the garage door in the middle and then there's a
Okay.
door on the side.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like that. So I couldn't tell if that's in this new one or not.
No, actually, as I was reading through this, and Oksana was talking through the staff report, that Coach with the slanted roof, we've actually redesigned that, so it's a front gable coming down, it doesn't have that slant.
Okay, so there is something,
Yes, so we've modified that plan already,
so there is something covering the front door, not
Yes.
just the 12-inch overhang.
yes.
Okay. And also, if you look at several of the designs, and kind of goes to the government, like your Gladstone, which is a 3-story, you have the 12-inch overhang, but you have you can see it, but you got a gable end, and it looks like to me, there's no gutter that goes down that wall. So the water's gonna run off that 12-inch overhang, come straight down in front of the house, and in some cases, depending on the design, right down in front of the garage. Am I not seeing something there, or?
No, you're correct, there is a 12-foot, gable there, but yeah, there's no gutter down the front face of the home.
Yeah, but it just, I mean, and the one, that's right over the garage, and so you're gonna, as it's raining, you're gonna have water running down right in front of the garage door, creating an ice patch right in front of the garage. I don't understand how that's a good design. Yeah, I can show you on some of your other pictures that you've been provided. But it just seems a little strange that you would do something like that. I mean, maybe you're not expecting too much water to get on that 12-inch overhang, but it seems like there's gonna be some in the way. And, I should want to be there, I was doing. Okay.
The pictures that we are looking at in the presentation we got updated for us to look at, it's listed as the Berlin. On this tonight's packet. Yeah, are these the ones still from Martinsville?
These are all photos Oksana pulled from our Martinsville.
Right, so they would not require that there. So in other words, if we required it, it would have to be reported, correct? All right.
Well, like in this case. Yeah, I guess there isn't a requirement that every section of roof has a gutter, so in that 12-inch gable overhang, there is a gutter right there, and the square in the center.
I'm just thinking that one of those ends right in the center of the garage door. And so the water's gonna, I mean, I don't know how much will come off of it, you know, because I'm not it's raining. But that water's gonna run off and come straight down in front of the garage door. With no, I mean, it's not even going on the roof because the house is flat on the front. So it's gonna be coming right down over the garage door. Maybe it's not a big thing, maybe that's fine.
Yeah, and that building is the only one that doesn't have a roof awning above the garage doors, so yes, I do see what you're saying there, so.
And you are committing to gutters, correct?
Or here,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we can commit to the gutters. I thought you were referencing another, I didn't know you were looking at that.
No, there's a couple specific designs where it just seems to me like the design is such that you're gonna have water, in some cases, running 2 stories down and then hitting the roof. In the case of the one design, that's where it's coming off just the second story, and it's gonna come straight down, in front of the garage door. So, you know, maybe if you're selling those and they're okay, I guess that's okay, but it just looks a little strange to me. On the traffic calming thing, I'm not quite sure, as I understand, so they are committing to putting some sort of traffic calming on those long runs. And that'll be the skill to go with them on that at the planning stage, correct?
Yeah, if you remember with the Rock Ridge project, where there were some long stretches, and so one of the conditions you guys had put on it, we had all agreed that you guys had placed on that project was that on those long stretches, there would be traffic calming. And so then at Friday, we worked through what that actually. did.
I was thinking, I had seen that in their original proposal, but maybe not, but anyway.
You saw it preliminary plat, I don't think
Okay,
that,
maybe that was it.
yeah. Yep.
Okay, but I wanna make sure that that's somehow, make sure we get that.
Yeah, so,
Because I can see those cars trying to
yeah,
race the people down 70.
yeah, so those are the types of issues that at zoning, we kind of identify that, hey, this is something that's gonna have to be addressed down the road. Your subdivision control ordinance actually has standards that will require at planning for us to go through and figure out whether it's how you break that up or the implementation of traffic calming. So some of the things you guys are talking about aren't necessarily zoning that things come.
Okay. The section, the area of the road on 200. I can see there's a sidewalk here, but I don't see any sidewalk all the way down to Bar Creek Road. I'm just not seeing 200 as a physical stop, but there is a road. That's not gonna go all the way through.
200, no,
Okay, we'll stop right there.
yeah, it'll be a freeway intersection. Freeway
I was thinking it was gonna go all the way down the road.
Nope.
So it kind of blocks, makes it dead end for the school.
It'll go down into the school.
Yeah.
And then there's another road down there that goes all the way through.
But that only allows the fire department then one way to get into the school.
No, there's gotta be, there are 4 different ways for the fire department to get into the school.
Okay, they're just in. And the other thing is, and how is the trail connection? The sidewalks are going over here, but the Bar Creek Trail comes up Bar Creek Road. So, comes up on this side of Bar Creek Road. But the blue, I'm assuming is the trails, that's the 8-foot wide.
Yeah, as right now, we stopped that trail at our property line, but we've already talked with Christine, we'll ensure that connects to the park design. Over on Buck Creek, we haven't really hashed that out yet, so.
But it will connect somehow on the Buck Creek side, because their drawing doesn't show
Right.
the trail width going that far.
Yeah, so there's multiple ways we can accomplish that and you know with that, but yes, whether it's a crosswalk that kind of happens there. Or it could be connected back into that common area, ties into the Cumberland North Trail system, and they actually have a crosswalk and a connection that will happen if they're new road down there. So there's a couple different ways that.
It will connect on I want to say trail width somehow into their, into our visiting Clark Creek Trail. Okay,
And if you're uncertain of that, then make that commission.
Okay, and since we're talking about trails, we do not have a connection from the pond up to 700 to connect to the internal rail system.
We currently don't, you're talking about up in that northeast corner by the overpass. We currently don't propose a path back there, but we certainly could.
Okay,
Um,
that should be a commitment then also. Thank you. Okay.
is that a,
Okay.
is that a path you'd like to see just to access the pond, or would you want it activated, or?
It should be, you know, just like the rest of the trail.
Yeah, I think what Anna's trying to articulate is, along, you know, you're gonna have the sidewalk along 200 for trail and run that up 700 and then along the pond and connect that.
Oh, okay, that's where I wasn't. I didn't know if you were utilizing that common area strip to get back to the pond.
Through here. I'm bringing it down. Connected it. There, take it across the street, around that.
Yeah, they connect it to their internal trail system.
Okay. Because. I had a question about that, since we're on trail.
We gotta get this figured out, it's kind of confusing.
The sidewalk up
Yeah,
here.
what you guys are drawing.
So the sidewalk on the south end, right, so the sidewalk on the south end is the side, right? We make the asphalt trail like everything else in our area. And then, that way they can cross at the roundabout here and use the hospital trail. Right, and then. Sidewalk here, connected to the Buck Creek Trail, right? But what we were drawing was you got that easement between these two plots up here that lead to the pond. And I was saying, just tie this in the rest of the trail system. That's right, in the neighborhood, and I think that pond, that's really the neighborhood, rather than just be kind of back there, forgotten. And then there was the option, really, there's really the same place across the 700, but to bring the trail down along 700, the roundabout across that way. That way, people living here, if they want to walk all the way down around, they can stop right back there.
Yeah, I think my concern there is with this being elevated overpass, where you can get grading, come back down here.
True.
I mean, we could commit to activating, you know, that pond.
That pond back here.
Here, I have concerns of with this coming down, whether or not you could get past.
There is a slope of the.
I'd almost rather, if you wanted to see that activated more,
Yeah.
to get to that point, than you do that.
No, good.
And so how do we put that into?
Other than that, I couldn't see you either.
draw that.
Highlighter.
I had a couple of questions earlier of some of the fire department's comments. When I went down to the addition putting the building church, I talked with the guy down there, and he said those houses are using something that's like hardy plank, it's called LP smart siding, which is equivalent to now, is that gonna be used here or anywhere in here, or can we have it in the arbor homes, but maybe not the arrivals, or what can you commit to with respect to that?
So we are using LP siding, it's a wood-based material, so, hardy or fiber cement, that's the material that's very hard to work with, heavy. As a homeowner, I have it on my house, and I'm paying my house now for the second time in 10 years, so, you know, I think I know this is a topic everywhere, but, you know, I think the vinyl from 15 years ago obviously isn't the vinyl today, but I think if that was something We could commit tonight to no vinyl in the arbor area. And we could do LP on arbor if Plan Commission would allow us to still use vinyl on the arrival series. I think that's something we could commit to this evening.
Okay. And then, this is, I wish the fire department's here, but with the 3-story homes, do they need a ladder truck to get up that high, and how can?
We have trucks that can handle the industrial.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, can they get in there okay?
Yeah.
That was one of their.
That's my, can the ladder truck get in there to
Yes,
fight fires for the 3-story homes?
yes, what'll probably happen is parking will get restricted on the side of the road, just like we're gonna do in Cumberland North.
Okay.
And I don't know, Christine, your maximum height on residential, is it 35?
40.
Yes.
What did they write into their?
Yeah, it is.
They
So
have.
we're talking about
Yeah.
35 feet, which is pretty customary in most municipalities, so while it is a 3-story, it's still, within the limits of most single family height restrictions, so.
Yeah, the fire trucks would be people that get in there. Well, just like I said, the one thing we're finding is that on some of the streets, when we get into by, and see what the lists are, we end up deciding to restrict parking on the west side.
They said they had to have 20 feet to get the outriders down, I think.
Mhm.
That one, the other one we approved, we had to move around a couple of houses because they were too close together to get the outlet. The other thing was, I assumed that there's quite a bit of open space here, which is really great. So I'm assuming there's gonna be a mandatory HOA, and the dues from the HOA will then be paid for maintaining all that ground and
Yes.
ponds and all that stuff.
Yes, we will have an HOA. My group, I actually oversee all of our HOAs, so we turn it over, so I'm very aware of the cost of mowing, the common area and all of that, but yeah, we would put together a budget that would accommodate, treating the ponds, aquatic treatment, landscape maintenance, mowing, and then that's what establishes the dues across the 182 homeowners, so.
So basically, you folks handle till you get a certain percentage of homes.
Yeah, historically, we will hold on, running the HOA until we're almost 90% more sold out, so. Yes.
As I would say, that, I mean, there's a lot of space there, you have 2 big ponds and all that.
Since we're
I
talking
did,
about HOA, I would like for you to add street trees to be maintained by the HOA. And, would you commit to a certain percentage of homes that are, a small percentage of homes that can only be rentals in the covenants? And I don't know what that typically should be, 5% or something.
I did for now, I got one last one. On your dots, on the yellow houses. Would it be, of course, now that I see that road doesn't go through, it doesn't make sense. Okay, I guess, I was gonna ask for 3 more houses that had dots. I was thinking that 200 of them all the way through, but since it doesn't, that's not really required. Okay. I think that's this minute. Oh, one minute. On the arbor homes, the roofing, I know in your proposal, I think it said you could have dimensional or 3 tab. Could you add dimensional to the arbor homes? Make them look a little nicer?
I think that's something we could commit to. Yeah.
I'm thinking dimensional on all.
I would agree.
Yeah, that's the only thing, that's just an absolute.
For relatively small cars.
Yeah, we'll commit to dimensional on all products with that. I did want to come back to, your comment on rentals. We have put some language in, commitments before. Here tonight, I don't know that I can have that exact language for you. So I wanted to address how you wanted to cover that. Capping it is a little challenging for us because then somebody has to monitor that. But we could put language into a number of years a homeowner must live in that home before they'd be allowed to rent unless there were, extreme circumstances, military deployment or whatever, but I wanted to address how you would want us to go about that commitment.
I would like to refer to our council on that.
So in most communities that I work with that have caps regarding rental properties, it is the ordinance that has to be council that sets for all developments moving forward. This is going to be structured. So the language is essentially crafted by the council itself and the ordinance that is adopted. We haven't taken a stab at that with you guys yet. I think what I'm hearing from the presenter right now is one of the things that often happens with the homeowners associations, that's where you don't have that kind of ordinance of restricting rental units, is the initial ownership is ownership in common. And that they've got to commit for 5 years or whatnot before it can even be considered to be rental. That kind of takes out some of the concerns that communities have of, New York and California corporations coming in and just trying to buy new homes and then just creating these giant communities. It has to be owner occupied to begin with for those first. Well, I'm not sure how long you can put it in, but that first owner, it will be an owner occupied situation. If you would like, we can start looking at some rental language.
Yeah, we probably should do that sometime. But yeah, so you would commit to, like, they have to live there for 5 years.
Okay. Is that something if we had some language and we filtered it through Christine and that town council? We presented the language for that.
The way that I look at this is all the commitments that are being made at this point would be reflected in the packet for the council's consideration.
Okay.
So that when they're coming to make their decision, all these commitments that are being discussed now are written so that it can be recorded.
Okay. I would like to add to that Mr. Lee was identifying, we do not sell to corporations. We do not, we as a builder, I spoke to our mission. We're about providing residents home ownership, not, trust and corporations to buy 180 homes and then, rent them all. So.
Just trying to keep, companies from coming in and buying 3 or 4 and, so.
No, we monitor those sales to that degree that we, me as Sean Downey LLC, I cannot go buy 5 homes in our community, so.
And it's one of the challenges you guys have, because you are a community that is seeing a tremendous amount of growth at a really short period of time. And so there hasn't been the time to really go through planning of circles like Fishers, Westfield, and Carmel. That growth has been percolating up there for decades now. And so they've been able to go through and do that planning. It's coming in quick to you guys. And so there's a lot of patches that will be going on.
Okay.
And I think, for beyond this project, I think it's more of a town policy issue. It's really not a zoning issue, because the zoning really can't regulate whether it's owner occupied or renter occupied. Point that out. And it is what you were saying. Right, too.
I'm sure you guys got some.
Yeah. So, to the building material, you talked a little bit about, you'd be open to the LE or cement board siding on the harbor, if we allow vinyl on the arrival. Tell us a little bit about the vinyl you would be proposing, what's the thickness?
So, minimum for us is 0.044, so that's, like I said, that's
That's a good quality.
a
vinyl.
quality, I mean.
Because 0.035 is,
I tell people, an old CP Morgan or Crossman, you could take a lead pencil and probably push the tip of it through the old vinyl.
also penetrated.
Yeah, the 0.044 now is pretty heavy. You know, like I said, it allows that moment. I wish I could go power wash my house rather than be painting it for a second time, so.
I mean, I would agree, that's a good quality vinyl there, to be honest, that's the heavy game. What most people would consider high quality vinyl.
So do we need to put that in the commitments, point or?
Yes. That's what they're using normally, not to put in there.
Okay.
Or not in anything I've seen written in.
Okay,
Just to give you some context when it comes to vinyl too, as you start going up in kind of thickness of vinyl. You know, some communities want you to take a step even beyond that, your colors become limited. So while you're helping with the material, now you start getting a community that looks shades of gray and beiges, and, you know, that's one aspect of the vinyl product.
What do you anticipate the Arrival series to sell for? What's the range? I know they vary in size, so.
Yeah, so for the Arrival, for the 5 products, we're probably in the 250, 260 average sales price. So we have the product where you can get up into 275, 280, and then that smaller coach model is in the lower 200s. For the Arbor, then for this series, I would imagine we'd be somewhere in the 325, 350 per average sales prices, so. You know, and that's why for us, this Arrival product it's something we're very passionate about, because as many of you know, I mean, you know, an average sale of a kind of a starter home at $350,000. You know, I don't know many of us, I come out of college, I don't know that I could have bought that home 30 years ago, and, you know, so this Arrival product, getting it back down, will feel into a market where people who have been priced out of the market, you know, now they have an opportunity for home ownership.
You know, on the website for Martinsville, I think the cheapest one I saw was like 200 was the base, but then there's a lot of options on top of that. So
Yes, the Martinsville market, there is a 199.99, so it's now right for 2, but we would look at this Cumberland market, you know, at a higher price point than that, so.
there's a lot of options on top of that.
So, you know, we had a lot of discussion on gutters. My conclusion, I'm assuming since we have gutters and downspouts as a standard in our community, every eve will have a gutter. Does that go without saying?
I don't know our product well enough to Mr. Brindle's point on some of those small rooftop, you know, gables above the garages. I don't know that we have a 12-inch gutter program for that, but everything that has a significant roof line has a gutter to carry the water. I'm an engineer, I can't speak to that 12-inch piece by half of a.
I mean, honestly, every eve should have a gutter. Practically.
So it is like they are covered by one above, but the one, this one's like, maybe, I don't know, I can't tell, 8 feet below, 6 feet below, and it's sticking out 12 feet, so.
We'll let permitting deal with that.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell on the plans, does the cul-de-sac get done away with there being a Buck Creek?
I think that's something with town staff, we could work to tie that in and, you know, remove the cul-de-sac. I think it's fire.
Yeah, we'll need to work with the fire department and school, because it's the school bus turns around in there, that's really what it's for.
I got you.
And
So
then
maybe somehow gets incorporated into that term.
we'll have to work with them and see if it's able to be eliminated or not.
Gotcha, okay. I think that's,
Yeah, we're usually pretty conscious on bus routes and emergency access, and we used to have to worry about postal delivery, but I don't know if post office is pushing for cluster mailboxes out here now.
They haven't approached me about it, but I suspect, probably if they're not, you'll get okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
How big is the buffer by the roundabout? Like, I know on each side it's 20 foot, but it looks bigger, do you have an actual measurements for how big it will be?
I do not. Are you referencing like up against the interstate?
No, we're actually like towards the roundabout by the 200. With the bottom corner of the. 20 both ways, but this, there's no actual one.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what that is. I think we. Yeah, I'd just be guessing at the distance there, but you're probably at least, the right of way is 50, so you're probably at least 50 feet from that to the rear of those lots, so.
My other question for about rails, those are all answered. So, I don't have anything else.
I have a question about, under. It comes in, you all have our little things, mine's like trees and trails and parks. We all have our little things, but anyway, it was in, you want it down, it was under, they were talking about existing trees, under number 3 in the comp plan. To be innovative, it says existing woods might be preserved. So where are those existing woods on?
Closer to
Like these up here?
Yeah.
well, there's the trees right along where
Yeah.
200's gonna go. So,
For a minute, you can kind of see in the background here of the image, there's kind of through here.
Well, this one shows, well, this one's pretty good. That needs some, Ed showed me, okay, I was thinking more like other plans where they're in the middle or something. So, is that a yes or a no?
It's
Is that a commitment that you're gonna leave them?
the wooded areas on the perimeter, we will try and stay away from those. There's no tree grows in the middle of the parcels, so.
That's what I questioned, because I didn't hear stuff up here, okay.
you just drive down, and I think there's some along where 200's gonna go, but I don't know how far down. I was looking at that last time, coming back.
You have to tie bright orange ribbon around them so that the contractors don't get into them and knock them down and all that.
I've been doing this long enough, but if we need to preserve them, I'll chain myself to them.
That's probably what you have to do, yeah.
And the other thing too was, I think this kind of was touched on before, maybe last month. There's no like signage proposed that you show us, like we have seen other developments present something to us. So there's, I mean, it's not like basic necessary, but I just.
Yeah, I think for the purposes of the zoning, we can really don't show too much there. I think as we get, if everything goes well and we get to the next step, we could show locations of proposed signage. I think part of it is knowing, 700 has got roundabouts, really working with staff on where is the best place to put monumentation for our development, so.
They're committing to meet the zoning ordinance when it comes to the signage, so it'll have to meet our minimums.
Unless a big pylon sign on the interstate would be.
I really people have that.
Just as long as it's not flashing or moving and broken.
I did have one question. You brought up about, adding the clause in, asking the HOA to maintain the tree in each front
The
yard.
street trees, not the trees in the front yard, the street trees, trees along the street. and they are required by an ordinance for them to have street trees.
Oh, I got you, I
And
thought you were.
I've seen it.
Frank,
other areas where,
hmm.
you know, some people don't maintain them, and it takes away from the whole effect of the street tree, so I would like to see that.
Are those trees within the property boundaries of each lot?
They're the public right of way.
But we can,
Street trees are in the public.
So they aren't owned by the homeowner?
No, so in the public works law, the homeowner is responsible for that right of way in front of there, so like the sidewalk, the parkway, the landscaping and that, but technically it's public right.
So they are responsible. The only reason I'm asking, could the HOA then be drafted that the homeowner is required to maintain that? Replace it if it goes dead with such a, you know, an appropriate size caliber and species of tree. Me personally, I hate HOAs that want to do anything on my property.
Well, maybe the HOA could make them do that.
That's what I'm asking versus physically hacking on a tree. Doesn't mean hack on to your
Yeah, well, I'm mostly talking about like when one dies,
replaceable.
yeah.
I mean, if it's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain it, the HOA should be able to dictate that.
I know in my community, so it's my responsibility, as Christine said, like I'm mowing that green space, but then there's also stipulation on any branches that are below 6 feet that impede people's ability to walk on the sidewalk. I have to either trim those myself or get them trimmed. The one thing I would caution on, if a tree dies and it needs to be replaced, that is a pretty hefty undertaking for the homeowner. So I don't know if there's some language, you know, as far as maintenance versus this tree got disease and it's, you know, now gotta be a stump grinded up and.
I mean, even a 2-inch caliper tree, you can replace for under $300. It's not that substantial. Requirement to do that here.
but they would cover, the homeowners would cover all of these, like along 70 and around the path side, those will be covered by the HOA.
Yes, everything in the common area.
Yeah, that's, the common areas.
This is minor, but are these pictures that you gave us in this exhibit, are they, what we're looking at? My big thing was that on the previous, the home showed one light exterior. These, I looked down tonight and I'm seeing like two lights and the big one light. It seems like, did you commit to make sure there are 3 lights on these homes? Like, it just seems like, at least tonight, under, the arbor, they are showing, this previous pictures here only showing one light on these homes. So are these what, are you looking at the arbor? I'm looking at, actually, I looked at 39,
Depends.
some of those.
Yeah, I have,
Right.
the first page is really giving more photos. The second one is renderings, so, you know, whatever, I guess, the town requires, that's where we would meet that, so. It's really just giving you some context, not, to speak exactly, you know, 2 carriage lights and those types of things, so.
Well, we're gonna make the garage doors, Nancy, it'll be nice to have lights on each
Well,
side.
as I said, it's kind of pushed it off, but it just adds to
Let's say,
it.
down here in church, not all of them have lights on those.
Yeah, I mean, it's really up to you guys, if that's something that's important, then they're willing to commit to it, it should be conditional.
Are you willing to commit to 2 garage lights?
We can commit to,
Lighting is also things that fires do, correct? The fire, they're building and stuff, would they, that be an add-on that they're choosing? Or that's
yes,
not
we
the
do
state
have an
law?
option that if it's one standard, they can choose a second light if they want, so.
The one is just standard for you guys.
Yeah, one at minimum, yes, that's standard, so.
But the style, they get picked.
typically. I believe so for that. I'm not really sure on the carriage right selection, so.
We're kind of in the weeds on it.
Yes. I think it'll be fine.
I was gonna do that here with the plan, with like no invasive species, like rabbit, bear, no cotton, here. I will worry about.
I'm, also no arborvitaes or, they're considered a bush in our ordinance, so they're not a buffer tree. So you can't use those as a buffer. They don't last very long.
I think what I'm hearing is, if arborvitae's used, it should be used as a bush or a shrub, but not to count as like an evergreen or.
Right.
I think most of ours are juniper and different type of evergreen species, so.
Yeah.
Then, my last thing, because everything else has been covered.
No, I haven't.
Oh, I know, but as far as my concern. Yeah, 3 ponds. Just like to see how some delicate mosquitoes. Were treated once a year or something. Mosquitoes, they get fly out.
So aquatic treatment would be acceptable.
Yeah, just something in already.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about with ponds, to give you more in there, and I think a lot of people want fountains, but fountains don't do anything for ponds, it's the bubblers, that's what aerates the pond, fountains are purely for aesthetic purposes, so.
And pull the water out.
What's that?
And blowing the water out.
Yeah, windy days, and windows are getting misted.
Get that mildew growing on your house.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Sure.
Okay, could you change the amount of the width of the buffer along 70? Is it the same as it was originally?
It's been 30 feet, yeah, so we haven't changed anything as far as the buffer, so.
Okay, I'd like to see that wider, just to help protect more from the noise and everything.
Are you thinking the mound within that 30-foot buffer? That's probably what's gonna help with the noise.
You mean like the mound wider?
But I think within that 30-foot buffer,
Yeah, mound
there's a
and
mound,
landscaping.
yeah, a mound of landscaping, that's gonna be what's really gonna help with the scent.
Yeah. Okay, and you maybe have already addressed this, it is one of the homes, there's one architectural in the arrival series that I'd like to have eliminated. And that's this one right here. Unless anybody else has any comments, but.
Did she?
It's on, page 17 of the packet that we agreed. Yeah. This one. Okay. And then, we do have a comment. This is something I can't ask you to commit to, but we've got, yeah,
So we were just talking real quick, about the antenna code and eliminating one of the elevations, that's gonna make it harder, for them to meet the proposed speed and mountain code. So just want to point that out, that if we're eliminating an elevation, we really need to revisit, that intent. You kind of, do that, because there's a limited number of that for life. Okay, so that's just from an administrative standpoint, that's important to us.
Okay, well, I don't know if it's something you can work on or not, but, and then, some of the, this is just, some of the houses that you have trimmed in brown, the windows trimmed in brown. They're just not very attractive. And I know that's nothing you can commit to, but I'm just saying, there was one, and I can't find it, that was, had black brick. Yeah, it just looked like something that was built in the 70s. I'm just trying to, I mean, I wouldn't want that to be as a model, I guess, if somebody would want that, I want to see you succeed, and I just, you know. Anyway, that's something you guys can talk about.
You know, I wanna play devil's advocate and push back a little bit on that design you want us to do. I just think it's a preference issue. I personally like it.
Okay, well,
Cause it has variety.
I know, I told him it was just my opinion.
Well, I won't admit that there's a couple I don't like.
Let's just get off the record.
Does it happen that you have all these options and then you see that the buyers generally still tend to like a few out of the offering?
I think if anything shown, people's tastes are all over the board, so what appeals to me may not appeal to the client, so.
Okay, so I have one more. I know that you, have committed to pay the parking tax fee up front. But we would get that anyway, even if you didn't do that. And since you're not putting a playground, in the development, could you commit to like $100,000 to the park? Parkview Village, it's gonna be a town park, original town park.
So is that different from this part? I don't know the parts.
Okay, okay. Okay, yeah. I don't know why I said that, I guess that's what I meant, so.
If there's no other question, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to extend, PUD 2025-02, town council, prepared recommendation. And move that this approval be made subject to the following conditions. Zoning approval is contingent upon completion of the employee annexation. Technically, drainage forward. Street trees should add along due to finish from County Road 300 North. Driveway improvements including sidewalk and or trail. Part of the north. Contribution. Construction of County Road 300. Contribution of the single lane roundabout, County Road 154, and County Road 7 West. Contribution of traffic signal / roundabout at the intersection of County Road 700 West and County Road 100 North. Dedicate that to the private way for new County Road 200 North, County Road 700, are in the planning process. Sidewalk, kind of get to the Sidewalk from 200 North Cheese to Catapult Trail. On the northeast activated with the trail. LP on Harbor Series, dimensional on all products. 0.044 vinyl on horizon. 2 lights on garage. No base species for cottonwoods and mosquito control for the ponds and in this.
Did you break, conventional shingles?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And
The trail that connects Buckley Road, to that part of,
Yeah, that was-
yeah, and the gutters. On all the gutters.
That could be part of.
Yeah.
And then, also the, percentage of red palm you can work with. Come up with language for that.
yeah, that's the count.
Yeah.
So.
So if there's nothing else, I'll entertain the second.
Well, second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Name passes. Good building.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you guys for taking all of
This will go to town council, they're not meeting July 2nd, so it'll be July.
And I just want to tell you, I'm very lucky that there's no space in here. Miss all, your notice just happened, being there's no people with me.
Well, appreciate all the input and questions and everything, so thank you very much. I hope it goes well for you. Before we close, I just want to say, I should have said earlier, today I had a little extra time, so I stopped by the apartments down here that are renting. And, they're doing real well. They said they had 7 buildings that were finished. The clubhouse is not yet finished or open. He didn't know anything about any of the commercials that are going on 40 yet. It looks like we're starting to level the ground, but not there.
Yeah, so they're, I actually remember. So they're getting ready to list it with the broker for the commercial piece, so it's their 3rd phase, and so now that the townhomes are going vertical, that'll be their next piece that they work on. And there are some, potential tenants interested in that, one second.
It looks like this townhomes, they got one section pretty well done, and we're starting to the second, like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And I asked them what they're renting for, and she said they between 1,200 and 1,500 a month. And the one that I am in, which is their like showroom, is 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's $1,400 a month. And some of them have outside entrances, and some of them from the inside, and then you have to use a key fob to get into the building itself. So they're looking pretty good.
And their friends don't look at them, they don't look at doggy spot.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's what I wanted to do, because they said there was, when they told us they were supposed to have a bicycle repair room, something or other, so I want to check that out, my boys did.
I think you're talking about, heavy e-bikes.
Well, I can see the openings where the openings to the back of the trail or something, they're really moving out. I assume at some point, when we get enough people in, this one will, the traffic light, I know.
It's up to, in that now for 12 of the 14 buildings have occupancy permits. And so they contacted NDOT, so it's all on NDOT, went to put the signal up and go by.
And I did see a couple of the police cars there, so maybe you've got a police officer that's renting there, I don't know.
I believe so.
Building security.
And then also serving the breaker.
That's moving along well, and I did try and stop at Parkview to look at their model, and I was there, said open at 11, I was there 11:15, 4 o'clock, they're there. I wanted to check that out too. But they're certainly got about 8, 9 buildings.
We have several firms. And then Rockbridge, probably the end of July or August, we anticipate they'll start pulling.
It looked like they were, pouring the curving, roll curves today, because I saw three, the concrete trucks.
Okay, tree and. Yeah,
But what,
Yeah, that,
that house,
yes,
the house.
the house, they're gonna sell it.
they just took, the two big trees in the front yard. They just cut them down and they're yanking out the stumps, the bulldozers right now. There's so much big tree cover.
So they're not
They may have
selling
been,
the house.
they may have been.
They were in
They are
the
selling the
way.
house.
They were in the way.
Well, they brought the path over, they brought the path over. It's
Yeah, yeah.
They brought the, yeah,
I kept
all the way
thinking
down.
yeah, brought the trail down.
I thought it was gonna end
We
at
thought
that
that
house.
into the house. And then use the crosswalk. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's gone past there.
Well, that's how. So it just goes to that last, that gray stuff on top.
Crosswalk is supposed to be there by.
I'm from the village.
But we still require them to do the the crosswalks that come on the village.
Okay, but just let it into your property.
Yeah, you can see it, they plotted all the way down.
So the house has been,
What they had said when they came before us was that they would, once they were done getting all the utilities and whatnot through there, and then if they'd be selling that, I think it's like it's a 2 acres or something, that they, kind of left separate. So the intent was to sell.
okay, I was thinking it was gonna be considered like 242. Okay.
They may have had a lot number, but they're not, they're selling
They're
that.
gonna sell, okay.
Because we'll have a July meeting, you will have we have 2 projects on the agenda for that, meeting. And then I'm trying to line up training, on the traffic studies. Hopefully I'll know by Friday whether or not our consultant can do that. If he can't, we'll do that at 6. So we'll do the training at 6 and start the meeting at 7. It'll be normal meeting, yeah. Yep.
I know we talked,
And then in August, I'm actually anticipating some as well.
and one time you were gonna do some BZA training, please don't do that in August.
No, I think we're start heading toward October at this point. We're trading dates and.
Okay. Well, October, I may not be here, if that's okay, I can swing in. We'll be in the middle of the Atlantic.
All meetings will be live streamed, so you can watch them there.
We did October there. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain the motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Out of here.
Yeah.